This week wasn't about the words we speak or even the actions people see. It was about what comes before all that, because whether you know it or not, you're already broadcasting. Every thought, every tone, every choice of posture and presence, it's all radiating into the field. People may not hear your thoughts, but they feel them. The simulation registers them, and reality bends according to the signal you carry. Most of us imagine that communication begins when we open our mouth, but in truth, communication begins the moment we walk into a space. The field speaks first. This week was about remembering that, noticing it, honoring it, and learning to hold it with clarity so the world doesn't pull us into distortion. Let's walk through what unfolded day by day and how it all weaves together. Monday, energy always transmits. The Buddhist teaching says, as the lotus blooms unstained by the mud, so the wise remain untouched. And the Bible reminds us, whatever is in the heart of a man, so he speaks. This is the truth, you cannot not transmit. Even when you're silent, the field feels you. Even when you hide words, your posture reveals them. Even when you mask emotions, your tone gives you away. Science explains this through mirror neurons. Our brains are wired to pick up the emotional states of those around us. We don't just hear words, we sync with energy. A calm person calms the room. An anxious person spreads unease. Someone grounded makes everyone breathe deeper without even trying. In the simulation, your presence is already a broadcast. The world is already reading your signal. Think of walking into a meeting after a stressful morning. You don't even need to say anything. Everyone already feels it. Or think of those moments when you're light, joyful, aligned. Your presence lifts people even if you barely speak. On Monday, the challenge was to stop pretending that transmission only happens when you choose it, to recognize that you're always transmitting. Which means the real question isn't whether you broadcast, but what signal you're sending. And when you notice it, you gain a choice, to clean it, to align it, to send something whole. Tuesday, influence without force. Lao Tzu said, the soft in motion overcomes the hard. The Quran commands, through patience and prayer, seek help. Influence is one of the most misunderstood powers. Most people think influence means pushing harder, persuading louder, convincing better. But that's not influence. That's force. Real influence doesn't push. It anchors. Science shows this clearly. In groups, the calmest nervous system often becomes the regulator. People unconsciously adjust themselves to whoever is most steady, not the loudest voice, not the strongest argument, but the most stable presence. In the simulation, this is law. The field bends not to force, but to stability. Think of a heated argument. Two people escalate, voices rising, tension mounting. But if one person drops into calm, lowers their tone, slows their breath, the whole room shifts. Without saying much, they reset the rhythm. On Tuesday, we practiced holding influence through stability. We didn't scramble to convince, nor did we push to persuade. Instead, we anchored ourselves and let others adjust to that. It's a bit counterintuitive, isn't it? You might think you'll lose power by not pressing harder, but the opposite is true. Force repels, while stillness attracts. Real influence doesn't demand the room, it earns the room. On Wednesday, we focused on what you carry, you teach. There's a Hindu proverb that says, as fragrance cannot be hidden, neither can wisdom. And the gospel adds, train yourself to be godly, it holds promise for this life and the next. This day reminded us that you don't teach by what you say. You teach by what you carry. Your kids don't copy your instructions. They copy your behavior. Your team doesn't believe your slogans. They believe the way you act under pressure. Your friends don't absorb your advice. They absorb your energy. Science confirms this. Humans learn far more from modeled behavior than from spoken instruction. Words fade, but embodiment sticks. In the simulation, the field learns from what you carry, not from what you claim. Think of a mentor who taught you more by how they lived than by what they said, or a parent whose silence in a moment of stress taught you more about resilience than any lecture could, or maybe even the opposite, when someone's words told you one thing, but their energy screamed another, and you learned to distrust them. On Wednesday, we practiced being the lesson, not the lecture. We focused on carrying what we want to teach, instead of just talking about it. Because the truth is, your energy is your curriculum, and everyone around you is enrolled. As we move into Thursday, we will explore the idea that transmission has a cost. The Taoist text warns, the wise conserve their breath, and, Jesus cautions, do not throw your pearls before swine. Here's the reality. Every broadcast costs energy. Every time you speak, every time you explain, every time you give of yourself, you're spending signal. And honestly, the more you leak, the lighter your frequency becomes. The more you conserve, the heavier your presence feels. Science shows this in burnout studies. Over-explaining, over-giving, oversharing, all drain your nervous system, leaving you thin and brittle. What begins as generosity can end as depletion. In the simulation, over-broadcasting cheapens your signal. It makes your presence less valuable. But when you spend it wisely, when you choose carefully where your energy goes, your frequency gains weight. Think about the person who talks constantly, giving opinions on everything. After a while, no one listens. Now think about the one who speaks rarely, but when they do, the whole room quiets. Why? Because they conserved their signal. Thursday reminded us to spend wisely. Not every space deserves your words. Not every person deserves your frequency. Not every battle is worth the transmission it would cost. Integrity is not just what you broadcast, it's knowing when not to. Friday, your signal shapes tomorrow. Yogic wisdom says, each thought creates the world anew. The Bible tells us whatever you sow, you will reap. Friday pulled the week together by showing us that what you transmit today doesn't vanish. It builds the climate of tomorrow. Science confirms this in neuroscience. Repeated states shape neural wiring. Every thought, every posture, every tone repeated enough becomes a habit, and every habit becomes your future. In the simulation, today's signal doesn't just stay in today. It reverberates forward. It creates the conditions you will live in tomorrow. Think of someone who constantly transmits bitterness. Over time, they don't just live in bitterness, they attract it. Or think of someone who holds steady gratitude. Over time, life bends around them to amplify that frequency. On Friday, we were reminded that your presence today is already designing the tomorrow you'll step into, which means honestly the future isn't random, it's built, signal by signal, broadcast by broadcast. So we asked ourselves, what climate am I building with the frequency I'm holding now? Week 22 showed us something simple but radical. You're always transmitting. And, transmission has weight. You began by noticing that even in silence, your energy speaks. You discovered that influence doesn't come from force, but from anchoring. You remembered that teaching isn't in your words, it's in your being. You realized that transmission has a cost, and not everyone deserves your signal. And finally, you saw that your signal today is shaping the world you will live in tomorrow. This is the art of transmission. Not trying harder, not forcing louder, not broadcasting endlessly, but carrying the signal clean, steady, and whole, so the simulation bends to what you embody. Because in the end, the field doesn't respond to your performance, it responds to your presence. And this week your presence got heavier, cleaner, more undeniable. This is Transcendent Reality. Live the code.